14 Creepy Secrets Revealed by Google Earth. Google Maps was intended to be an app that would simplify the way we used the maps. It has certainly done that. However, there are plenty of other benefits that have come along with Google Maps. You can look up anywhere you want at any time of a day. It's available to anyone who has an internet connection, and there's no limit of how much you can explore. You can find your all-time favorite site and a destination that you might want to have always visited. At first, you just got an aerial view of the land and nothing else. This was cool enough at the time when it was introduced, but now, there's an entirely new feature that allows us to see different destination spots at the street view. You can see the front of the building that you might be looking up and anything happening on the street at the time. Pretty soon, we'll be able to see all the way inside houses if we keep going at this rate. For now, however, it's just the street. Because of this, you can also see a bunch of other interesting things that you might never have had it been another map. There are plenty of secrets hidden in Google Maps waiting to be discovered, and we've put together a list of 15 pretty scary ones. From dead bodies to criminals caught in the act, there are plenty of horrors waiting to be found on Google Maps. For now, here are 14 scary secrets discovered by Google Maps. 14. A missing man is discovered in his car underwater. After one man, along with his car, went missing in his small town, people did whatever they could to look for him. Years passed, and he never turned up, making many wonder what possibly could have caused his disappearance. It wasn't until one man was on top of a ladder decorating for Christmas that he noticed a strange shape at the bottom of a large pond. It turns out, it was the missing man inside his car. Apparently, he had driven off the road and drowned inside his vehicle. When you look up the image on Google Maps, you can see it right at the bottom. It's certainly an eerie sight and not one that we would have ever expected to see. Unfortunately, Google Maps didn't reveal the secret, as no one looked this place up. However, it's still a horrifying sight nonetheless. 13. What's going on here? The image above is a pretty eerie one. Terrible things are happening all the time all over the world, and it makes sense that Google Maps would end up catching a lot of that. However, what we never expected them to catch was some sort of SWAT team staring right back at the camera. The way they're standing and looking right at the cam is horrifying. What could they have been there for? What are they doing that they have the free time to stand and stare at cars? Clearly, they must be keeping watch over something else going on off camera. It has to be something very serious for there to be so many of them. Normally, Google blurs the faces of anyone that they capture when driving around and snapping pictures. They didn't seem to need to blur the faces of these terrifying masked men. 12. Is this an escaped inmate? This picture was taken on a desolate road and shows an area that seems to be in the middle of nowhere. The purpose of Google is to take images of roads so drivers and travelers know where they're going. There seems to be another spooky secret hidden in this image, however, in the form of what looks to be an escaped inmate. Some might say that it's just another jogger, but if that were the case, why on earth is he wearing a prison-like uniform? There wasn't any report of an escaped prisoner in the area or a loose felon to be on the lookout for. But perhaps they ended up capturing him right away once they found him on Google Maps. It's a pretty terrifying sight nonetheless. Some also wonder if it's a prank from someone who knew Google would be in the area. It seems unlikely, however, considering how much of a desert area it is. 11. What's this strange underground structure? One man was horrified to make the discovery he did in the photograph above when browsing Google one day when he was bored. It looks like some sort of sea monster. It's always scary to find stuff in the ocean. We've explored such a small portion of our waters that really anything could be lurking and hiding in the depths below. Who knows what horrors are awaiting us? After launching an investigation to find out what this was, it turned out that it wasn't as scary of a secret as everyone thought. What ended up being discovered was a 1,000-year-old fishing trap. It was created to stop schools of fish swimming in the area and to trap them to sell indeed. It's an incredibly sound structure for having lasted all these years and shows how good the craftsmanship was at the time to make something that still exists after all these years. 10. Man standing on the street with guns. There are a lot of scary places in the world with a lot of scary people in them. Chicago is definitely one of them. It's considered one of the most dangerous cities in our country right now, with an average of 1-2 murders per day. The gang violence and presence of guns all over is so bad that even Google Maps reveal a guy standing in the street with his gun out. Perhaps he's licensed to carry, but what reason does he have to hold it out in the open like that? Of course, if you tried to find this man now, it'd be impossible since Google blurs faces out. He's wearing jeans and a gray hoodie, not a unique style that would make him distinguishable. This is a common sight in the city, unfortunately, but particularly in gang-regulated areas rather than just everywhere on the street. 9. Thieves fleeing a store they had just robbed. The image above shows robbers fleeing the scene after hitting up a convenience store. It's pretty crazy that such a rare sight was actually captured. Places get robbed every day, but what are the chances that the car that takes pictures for Google was there at the exact moment that the thieves sprinted out from the store? You can't easily tell who they are because of Google's protection of people's anonymity. If authorities really wanted to, they could probably get Google to give them a version of the original photograph to get a look at their faces. There's a chance that they found the criminals without the use of Google, however. For us, we just get an interesting glimpse into what was happening at this particular street corner. With all the violence on the list so far, Google Maps make it seem like a scary world. 8. An ancient villa is found by a bored Google browser. Because of how much you can see on Google Maps, many people have a hobby of looking around the world just for fun when they have some extra time on the computer. It's like going on a vacation and seeing the sights without having to worry about paying for food, a place to stay, and the transportation to get to the spot. Google allows us to see things that we would have never seen in our lives. They also allow the man who found this picture to find a villa that we might have never found before. It appears to have existed during Roman times. More explorations have just begun to discover as much as possible about the information. It's crazy to think that this would have still just been sitting there unminded had this man decided to do something else with his free time. Next time you're bored, check out Google Maps. Who knows what you could find? 7. Men dealing are caught and arrested. There's no denying that there's a heroin epidemic at the moment. It seems that everyone knows someone who has an addiction problem, and police and government officials are doing whatever they can to stop the problem. Aside from the people who get addicted to the drug, the biggest problem are the dealers who are selling the drugs. In the photograph above, you can see some guys standing at a street corner. They don't seem to be doing anything too much, but it turns out that they're actually in the middle of a drug deal. Police ended up obtaining the original copy of this photograph to use to capture the men involved in the deal. One dealer has been taken off of the streets, hopefully stopping at least one person from using drugs. Without Google, who knows how many people this man might have supplied a deadly dose to. 6. What's hiding under the water? Having an aerial perspective of the world opens up new opportunities as to what secrets can be discovered. When we look at the world in front of us in the normal way our eyes were intended to, we simply see things from a limited viewpoint. Once we can step above and away from everything, we can really start to discover new things. One example of that on Google Maps is the discovery of these strange lines underneath this pond. Many people have seen this picture, and no one can come up with a definitive explanation for what's actually be hiding under the dark waters. Are there underground structures? Did the water levels rise over something? Is it just a glitch in the camera or weird lighting? Although we have this great new perspective on the world, we also have so many more questions left to be answered. 5. Mysterious lines in China have no explanation. Without the technology of recording every part of our history, there are a lot of things we've discovered in the world that seemingly have no explanation. Even though when archaeologists find something, they're usually results of humans, it still feels like we're discovering aliens when trying to figure out the way they used to live their lives. One mystery that has very little explanation is the appearance of these lines in the photograph above. No one knows why these lines are there or what purpose they serve or used to serve. It doesn't seem to be some sort of road for transportation because of their sizes and complex design. Some even wonder if it was a way to communicate with aliens. Since many believe aliens travel using aircraft, some think that old lines left behind past civilizations were different people sending messages to the unidentified flying objects zooming above them. What do you think the lines mean? 4. A young boy finds the thieves who stole his bike. One boy found himself frustrated after his bike was stolen. As if that wasn't bad enough, police ended up not doing much to help capture the thieves. They simply had bigger cases to investigate and didn't have time to find some little boy's bike. The boy didn't want this to be the fate of his bike, so he took matters into his own hands and started searching Google Maps to hopefully get a clue as to what might have happened. Shockingly, he ended up getting exactly what he was looking for. He ended up finding the 3 boys responsible for taking his bike. Imagine if all thieves were caught this way. If you ever try to steal something, take notes from these guys and make sure to hide if you ever see the Google car driving around. Who knows what other criminals might get caught in the future because of this technology. 3. Orange lakes reveal water crisis in Michigan. Currently, in Detroit, Michigan, many people are suffering through a water crisis after the discovery that their drinking water is contaminated with a large amount of lead. It's harmful to anyone drinking it and can cause a number of health problems. It seems as though lead isn't the only problem in the waters of Michigan, though, as seen in this Google Maps picture. The orange blobs in the photograph are actually small lakes that must contain high amounts of rust that causes certain bacteria to grow. It's disturbing to see something like this in a city already going through so much. If there's one thing and one thing only that people really deserve in this world, it's clean drinking water. It's sad that our friends and neighbors in this town don't have access to even that. If you don't have clean water to drink, what are you supposed to do? 2. Floating in the river. Unfortunately, terrible things are happening all over the world, and those include murder. Since murder's illegal, people will go to great lengths to dispose of the body of the person they killed so as to not get caught. The murderer of the man floating in the river above decided that dumping his body in the water was the best way to dispose of him. Unfortunately, there isn't much known about the man you can see floating in yellow. Hardly anything is known about what might have caused his death either. There's a chance he wasn't even murdered and instead fell into the river and drowned, or potentially was even attacked by an animal. No matter what happened, it's tragic that it was caught on camera. Without Google Maps, however, his body might have never been found at all, and his body could have very possibly still remained floating down the river long after the shot had been taken. 1. People gather to view something on the street. When looking at the picture, it's kind of hard to figure out what exactly is going on here. You see a building with a bunch of people in front of it and some cars around them. Is it a popular place for people to go? Maybe they have the best food around town, and the crowd is lining up for it. Unfortunately, this isn't at all the case. It's a pretty tragic sight and one that we wish we hadn't seen. The people on the street can't say the same, however. What do you think happened?